Hi guys and gals, welcome to another Further 101 exam question walkthrough. Today, we'll be looking at question 2 from the core module section of exam 1 in 2016. Only 31% of students selected the correct answer for this. Now if you haven't attempted this question yet, please pause this video and try answering it yourself before cross-checking your responses with the video's explanation. This question relies on knowledge of different variables. If you're still unsure about this topic, why not click on the card above and check out our video on it. We will do a quick run through of variable types before kicking into the solution. With that, let's jump into it. This question presents two variables. The first variable is blood pressure, which is defined in brackets as containing one of three possible responses: low, normal, or high. The second variable is age, which is defined in brackets as containing one of two possible responses: below 50 years and 50 years or older. The question then asks us to select the answer that correctly defines each variable type. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Yet it seems many students have confused and assumed for this question, leading 45% of students to select one incorrect answer in particular. Whilst we're here, please do note the word respectively in the last three answer choices. This means that you match up the descriptions of each variable with the variable in the same positions above. For example, answer C is describing the first variable, blood pressure, as a nominal variable, and the second variable, age, as an ordinal variable. Before we break down and analyse each variable, let's do a quick recap of the types of variables. Please click the timestamp in the video description below if you want to just skip straight to solving the question. You should recall that there are two broad types of variables, categorical and numerical, which each contain two subtypes of variables. Categorical variables contain data that describes the quality or characteristic of the thing being recorded. Examples include car colours, the gender a person identifies with, or a person's hometown. Categorical variables therefore use words to organise or label the thing being observed or recorded into categories, hence its name. There are two subtypes of categorical variables. If the different categories inside a categorical variable have an implied or logical order of presentation, it is described as an ordinal variable. Think of survey question responses with one of the five options: strongly disagree, disagree, neither agree nor disagree, agree, and strongly agree. It always seems logical to present the responses from strongly disagree to strongly agree, or vice versa, making analysis easier and clearer. If there does not appear to be a logical order to the different categories, the variable is defined as a nominal variable. These are often just called by their broader definition of categorical variable. Moving to numerical variables, and these contain data that indicate the quantity or value of what is being recorded or observed. There are also two subtypes of numerical variables. If the numerical data is typically collected by counting how much there is of something, the variable is defined as discrete. A clear example is the number of siblings in a family. However, if the numerical data is typically collected by measuring the value, the variable is defined as a continuous variable. Some examples include a person's height or weight. Do be aware that sometimes a numerical variable can be made into a categorical variable by dividing the numbers into intervals. The key is not to assume a variable type just by reading the variable's name, but to actually look at the data provided. And in fact, we'll see this in play with this question. With that, let's go back to the question. Let's analyse the first variable, blood pressure. Now, when we typically think of blood pressure, we think of a doctor measuring it with one of those funny inflatable devices on our arms and writing down the measured number. Hence, we would instinctively assume that this variable must be a numerical continuous variable. But that would be incorrect. In fact, we have failed to do one very important thing whenever working with a variable. We have not read the accompanying information, which typically appears in brackets. This gives a good indication of the type of responses to expect for this variable, and hence helps to correctly define the variable type. Looking at the accompanying brackets for the variable blood pressure, we can see that it contains three words: low, normal, and high. Even though the question has not provided the numerical boundaries of each of these categories, we now know that the variable blood pressure records worded responses rather than the measured numbers. So it is a categorical variable. Also note that there is an implied order with the presentation of the three responses, from low to high, or vice versa. Therefore, the subtype of this variable must be ordinal. So overall, this variable is a categorical ordinal variable. Given this, we can use the elimination method to knock off any answer that does not have the first variable blood pressure as a categorical or ordinal variable. Answer A says that both variables are numerical, which is clearly false given our findings for blood pressure. So let's cross that one off. Answer B seems okay so far, but we will have to check the second variable, age, to see if it is also ordinal. Answer C describes blood pressure as a nominal variable, which is clearly false, so we can scratch that. Answer D is also possible as it defines blood pressure as ordinal, but we will have to check the definition of age. Answer E is clearly false as it describes blood pressure as a numerical continuous variable. Cross it off. You can see how the elimination method has made our work so much easier. We've gotten rid of three clearly wrong answers and can visually see which answers to work with and which ones to ignore. Now is probably a good time to look at the differences of the two answers left. Answer B describes age as a categorical ordinal variable, whilst answer D describes age as a categorical nominal variable. So age must be a categorical variable. Seems a bit odd, doesn't it? Well, let's have a look at it now. Seeing the word age would instinctively trigger the assumption that the variable is a numerical discrete variable, as we count age over time. But just like the first variable, that would be incorrect. Once again, we cannot just assume the type of a variable and need to read any accompanying information. Inside the brackets here are two options: below 50 years and 50 years or older. Unlike the other categories in blood pressure, we are given numerical boundaries for each possible response. But because the responses are still worded and are descriptive, age is still a categorical variable. It is a little hard to recognize with only two options, but there is also an implied order to the responses. Perhaps the best way to illustrate this is with an altered version of this variable using three categories: under 40 years, 40 years to 60 years, and greater than 60 years. The numerical boundaries themselves imply an order to the categories. Therefore, the subtype of this variable must be ordinal. So overall, this variable is also a categorical ordinal variable. Let's go back to our possible answers and select the correct one. Answer B describes both variables as ordinal and fits our findings. This is the correct answer, but to be sure, let's check answer D. Answer D describes age as a nominal variable, which contradicts our findings that there was an implied order to the categories. So this must be incorrect. It's interesting to note that 45% of students incorrectly selected answer D, not recognizing the ordinal characteristics of this variable. That's probably because there was only two categories and it's hard to see any implied order. That doesn't eliminate the possibility of order, especially when the numerical boundaries between categories are very clear. Thank you so much for watching this exam question walkthrough, and I hope you understand the solution to this question a little bit better. Why not check out a few of our other exam question walkthroughs in the playlist below? And please don't forget to check out our Facebook page and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all from Further 101.